actually shows you when you apply performance engineering to product and you make it better, it proves that you love your customers. If you don't love your customers, why should they expect to use your software?
Welcome to Zap Talk, Automation Unfiltered, a monthly podcast for QA leaders where software testing, automation, and cutting-edge tech collide. I'm your host, Joe Colantonio, joined by the visionary behind it all, Alex Zapp, founder of Zap Tests. Together, we're here to spark meaningful conversations that matter in today's tech-driven world. Ready to level up your testing game and avoid BS? Get ready to get zapped. Hey, welcome everyone to episode 4 of Zap Talk. I'm your host, Joe Colantonio. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Alex Zapp. Hey, Alex.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Good to see you.
Great to see you. It's been a bit. And our special guest today is the one and only Scott Moore. He has over 30 years of experience. You probably know him. He does a lot of things with various platforms and technologies. He's also an active writer, speaker, influencer, and host of multiple online video series. And he recently coined the term DevPerfOps and started a movement around it that I think you're going to hear a lot more from. Really excited to have Scott join us. Hey, Scott, welcome.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Alex. It's really good to be with you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Yep. You know, Joe, Scott and I, we know each other over 20 years.
All right. That's my next question. I was going to say, everyone seems to have an Alex story, so I want to know what Scott's Alex story was.
We were young spring chickens and the early 2000s going together through the instructor certification in the Mercury headquarters in Atlanta in the Twin Tower. So we spent a couple days together going through this certification thing. It was fun. Yep.
Absolutely. I remember that. It was under the great instructor, Lydia Casillas, who was she was wonderful. And we became really good friends after that. And I remember that's probably my first video I ever made because she made us do some kind of a special presentation. Remember that? And my video, I had a video camera with me then. And my wife went down to the Starbucks in the hotel and I explained how to order a coffee from Starbucks. And I had the lady that was making the coffee in the video. And that was part of my presentation was how to teach somebody how to order a coffee at Starbucks. So that was my first influencer video ever.
Yeah, I remember we were wearing some goofy costumes, like Halloween costumes. I think I was a firefighter or something.
Yeah.
I actually borrowed from my little son. It was little back then.
Crazy. We won't talk about that.
That sounds like a crazy, wild video there. So what cert was it for? Was it Load Runner?
Yeah, it was actually for the instructor certification.
Instructor general.
Everything. Yeah, and so the very first Mercury Interactive certification for instructor was very technical. So that was done in Sunnyvale generally, and they would actually tear up the lab and sabotage the lab. And you had to not only be able to teach the class, but you had to deal with all these technical issues that could pop up when you were an instructor. And so they would literally sabotage it and you had to figure it out. Then later on, the certification around the instructor really became more about how well you can teach people, which I think was better. And Lydia and Cyrus started teaching that. And
right.
They were great, but I learned so much, and I still actually use a lot of the techniques that we learned in that class, and I'll never forget it.
Introducing you to ZapTest AI, your ultimate AI-powered solution designed to streamline, simplify, and revolutionize software testing from start to finish. ZapTest AI empowers your team to automate smarter and faster, transforming how you approach test automation. Experience the future of automation firsthand. Book a demo now and let's zap.
So what's a key takeaway or a key technique to use that you learned?
Go ahead, Scott. You start first.
Well, I'll throw mine. Whenever you start talking about something or you're giving feedback, you use the hamburger methodology where you have a bun and you have something in the middle. So if you have something negative to say in terms of feedback, you always start with something positive. Then you kind of slip in the negative in a gentle way, and then you also exit with something positive or an action item. And that kind of eases the pain instead of just criticizing somebody. And I think that's good communication.
Scott, listen, you grew up in this country. I was a first-generation immigrant coming from different culture at all. For me, this best practices was a life learning experience because, you know, in East European, like post-Soviet culture, you have to be very frightened, like you have to be very serious and tell people right away what you think about them, offend them or not. So that definitely worked to my advantage as well. My takeaway from that was another one. I remember there was a rhyme there that I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, and I do and I'll understand. And I incorporated it for my career, throughout my career, when I enable my customers, when I teach in my teams to do something, those principles. So all these valuable lessons were life learning lessons for us as a young professional. Absolutely.
Yep. I could just imagine both of you being class clowns because you're both like, when you know each other, you're over the top, like entertaining. So it must have been a crazy, crazy course for sure.
Yeah.
That was, well, see, we didn't know each other at the time. That was like we knew. I guess we knew each other because we had attended conferences and stuff. But we actually got to know each other in that class. And there was another person that was in my class from the same town. He worked for a company, but he was into. We had Mercury user groups back in the day in Nashville. He was from Nashville too. His name was Boyd Patterson, and he took the certification as well. So we had a few people in common there.
Nice. So Scott, you mentioned you had a video camera, and people that don't know you, we'll post some links to videos you've created. So, what's the deal with the video? How did you get into like this info education team type style that you have nowadays?
I really got frustrated with going to these conferences, tech conferences. I won't name names, or even watching online content from the corporate world where it's these heads. Talking heads, and they're just alliterating buzzword bingo. And I mean, I'm in tech, and I'm familiar with all of this, and I don't even know what they're saying because they keep making up words from technology and using acronyms that I've never heard of before. And you're just supposed to know what it is. Whenever we used to go to some of these conferences, me and my team would create buzzword bingo cards and see how many we could check off in some of these presentations. I got so tired of that. Instead of being cynical, I thought, why don't I start making videos that could educate people, but also entertain them as well? And as we get into the younger generations, the attention span is about that of a gnat right now. So you have to grab them, but you've got to take that moment to try to teach them something as well. And let's face it, software engineering and performance engineering and testing can be very dry sometimes, unless you're like geeks like us and you're really into it. So how do you reach that person who may be interested, but you just got to reach them on their level? That's what I thought. I thought about that a lot, and that's where a lot of my videos come from.
Nice. So when you guys were in that course or that training, was there anything that you learned that you predicted was going to happen and maybe didn't happen, or maybe went completely wrong? Like, did you think I don't know, performance testing was going to be like the shining star nowadays, or was there anything that you thought was going to happen that didn't happen? Just curious to know. You have a lot of experience. What you saw at the beginning of your career, what happened on the back end, if you've seen it change at all.
You want to go first on that, Alex?
Well, yeah, I may. I mean, for me, it was, my path was slightly different because I was working with Israel, with R&D on Mercury in Israel. I used to fly back and forth. As a matter of fact, I carried this. It's a blessing and a curse because knowing something that the crowd does not know yet was putting me in a lot of edgy situations. For example, sometime on the engagements when PSO was sending me to implement some new latest technology, I was advising them that the process is based on functionality that's supposed to be released, but unknown for people yet. And they were asking to replace me on the engagement because I wasn't, for their opinion, I wasn't knowing what I'm talking about. Yeah, so, but definitely this certification class was mostly for me as a template how to train classes, because that was my favorite part to do. I grew up as a kid actor, so I like all the artistic approaches, like stages. Obviously, we have this show, right? So, and for me to travel nationwide and worldwide and train Mercury classes was like a performance arts. Makes sense? So definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess for me, talking about predictability, I think I see what's coming around the bend. and I'm trying to play chess 5 steps ahead, and I'm terrible at it. I always end up choosing the wrong thing, or I deal with the wrong people about that. And I've got a great story around that. And it predates me starting my consulting company, Load Tester Incorporated, where we focused on performance testing. And I'm from a services background rather than just building a product or something. So I was working at Deloitte & Touche out of Nashville, Tennessee. And this was the central team that managed all the practices. So we handled all the IT for all of Deloitte, one of the big 5 accounting firms in the world. And so we had really smart people there. And I'm saying this is probably like 1999. And I remember hearing about what was coming down the pike in terms of mobile devices, that we were going to have phones that would have applications on them, and it would be geographically aware of where we were going to be. And I went and pulled together, I paid for everybody's breakfast to meet me one day before work. And I said, how could we take this knowledge, knowing what's coming in a couple of years, if there's going to be this handheld device that we can do stuff with, what could we build that could make us a lot of money? And I've got the best and the brightest around this, and the best they could come up with was, I've always wanted to know where my golf ball lands on a golf course. Do you think that device could locate this? And I told him, I said, your thinking is so minute. And it was really disappointing because I was thinking, hey, one day there's going to be a waiter that comes to you at the restaurant and takes your order with a mobile device. They won't have a hand, they won't be handwriting it. And by the time they get your order and plug it in, it'll be in a computer in the back. They'll be cooking it, and it'll all be electronic. Nothing will be on paper. Those things exist today, and we take those for granted. Yeah. But I was talking about them back then, but I just didn't know how to implement them. And the second thing that happened right after that was I spoke at my very first conference. It was Star East 1999. And I was telling everybody about the mobile LTE3, or it was before what just came out. 5G, 4G, it was 3G LTE. I was telling them, when 3G LTE comes out on your phone, we're going to have applications where you can listen to the radio and be in your car and drive all the way across country and just listen to the same station, because it'll be talking to satellites because we'll have the bandwidth to do it. That just blew people's minds. And they said, there's no way that's coming. And like a couple of months later, Sirius, XM radio, and all that was coming out. So at that moment, I kind of felt like a prophet. But at the same time, I was nonprofit because I never made any money off of those ideas. So there you go.
It sounds like, Scott, you have good insight, though, into what's coming down the road. So interesting. I just want to touch a little bit upon AI. And I actually got a comment on YouTube saying I'm covering AI too much. And they called it AI farts, which I thought was hilarious. Is AI a really thing? Based on all you've heard of hype over the years and what you know of AI now, is this something people should follow or care about? Or you think it's as game-changing as the AI bot would say?
Myself, I do think there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors, the way there has been for every single thing that has come around before. But it's just like you see on that Gartner famous, magic quadrant thing. And then they have the hype cycle and the trough of disillusion and all that. I mean, you get on this hype cycle, and that's where we're at within AI. And then what happens is it doesn't do what you thought it was going to do. But then somebody says, well, let's make it do what it was meant to do. Let's find the best use cases for this. And then all of a sudden it starts working and people make money off of it. And it's great. Finding out at the top of that hype cycle what it's really there for, to have a long-term business plan for that, that's difficult to do. All right. And so it's all about execution. Like you talked about, I have good ideas of what's coming down the pipe, but if you can't execute on it, and that's what a lot of companies have a problem with, is the execution part of it. So long story short, yes, you should be paying attention to it. And eventually it is going to be something that can absolutely be used for whatever you think it can be used for. But right now, let's find the use cases where it's really good. A lot of times you're hearing the words or you're hearing the letters AI when it really isn't talking about AI. It's actually talking about some other things like the LLMs, machine learning, things like that. But whatever you call it, if you can make it do what it was sort of meant to do, pick out patterns and trends and things like that, and use it for its advantage today, you can get a lot of benefits and save a lot of time. Knowing how it works is obviously going to be to your benefit versus I don't have any idea. You will eventually be left behind. So you have to change.
Absolutely. Alex, agree, disagree, different point of view?
God, brother, where should I start? So, my onboarding coming from different perspective, right? Being the first generation immigrant, when you climbing through the career, actually, even in my case, I was a career entrepreneur and I worked for anybody. I walked into the golden cloud right away as a elite consultant and given opportunity to build team around this commotion. So I've been always East European, Russian speaking executive that people had a hard time to understand sometimes, right? So for me, even to have my heavy accent and my sometime un-American demeanor was something that I tried when I was younger. I was sometime uncomfortable about it, right? So I was kind of had an issue. Wasn't think that I wasn't, fitting in very well. I wasn't enterprise oriented well. Today I have my digital avatar that speaks 150 languages, no accent. Absolutely same mannerism like myself. That's why I'm wearing hat, because I let people to distinguish where they see me in the AI format versus me live. But I tell you even more. My challenge being an AI already there, full game, because it's Zaptest, I like to refer to it as 3 patterns. Like a pre-AI Zaptest, it's allowing you have a lightweight sneakers that allows you to run fast. You're running, right? We have object recognition that unorthodox get you faster. One script technology, we got cross-platform execution, yada, yada. Now we have a co-pilot that's been already on the market for a year. And that's like a race car that lets you to race across terrain, because you don't negotiate the UI or whatever the interface where you're automating. But on the top of everything, I already have supersonic jet that allows you to just plug to any ALM, suck any collection of documentation that processes thousands of test cases in a matter of minutes, and present it to you, first step to pose for subject matter expert to review, just to vet it that it's converted to the automation architecture accurately in the textual format. Then the next click, we call it one-click technology. That's you did one click to connect it and stack it and analyze it. It's got the procedural and reusable modules, folded data parameters, yada, yada, functional areas. All you would take for a number of people many weeks and months to do in a matter of minutes. And second click, it automates everything through Copilot, converts it to the executable scripts. Also in a matter of minutes, where another role, like automators that you have on staff, will just go and vet it out to do some minor adjustment that needed. But all in all, so much technology being output there. My main challenge, it's a good challenge to have, basically, right? Only 20% are used by our customers, because everybody using what they need to win the day. And once they won the day, they don't bother to learn more what is in that will allow them to win the week. Make sense? So they keep winning the day one time at a time instead of kind of reassessing. This is why we're adding the assistants, full-time assistants at no cost to our customers. The mission of our assistant, certified Zap expert, to coach customers, because we do unlimited licenses, so everybody onboarding it at the same time, rapidly scaling up, to advise every group of what functionality, according to their process, they should use to expedite the productivity.
The things you're talking about, Alex, those are exciting areas that are being explored right now, and being able to take advantage of that in a tool where you can take advantage of that, where it's exploring through say an entire website, go through the website, make sure we have the full coverage, follow all the paths so that we don't have to do this stuff manually, those type of things. I mean, those are wonderful things. So, I mean, I applaud you on that.
Zaptest support for modularity lets you include calls to existing scripts as reusable modules, share object repositories between scripts, and combine UI, WebDriver, and API steps into a single script. This flexibility means you can automate any task, regardless of complexity or environment, desktop, web, or mobile. Zaptest isn't just a testing solution. it's an enterprise automation solution. From DevOps to BizOps, our automation capabilities streamline operations, save time, and reduce costs.
Thank you. By the way, what you take on what you saw? We showed you Zaptest AI.
I thought it was great. I mean, it's definitely very intuitive. Being a performance engineer, I'm just happy that you put the performance piece into the tool as well, where people can utilize that as well. I see that as a big benefit for whether you're a developer or SDET using it, or whether you're a QA engineer that's using it, and you need to get some level of assurance that you've got some performance built in at the earliest stages of building your product. I mean, I wish there was more than that. I think anytime there is a functional question being asked, there's a user requirement for functionality that's being put down on a sticky note or wherever it's at, there should be a performance requirement there as well. We have a lot less of that than I would like to see. And having that question asked and being able to put that into your product is excellent.
And I thank you for mentioning this. I want to talk about the performance part of it, right? So we usually focus on the functional automation because it covers way more in organizations. But the reason why I kept performance there, Load Studio, exactly what you said. I want to empower QA team or RPA biz automation team, predominantly QA because the testers need to do performance automation, RPA folks less, right? To give them tool like a Swiss Army knife where they can do performance testing. But most importantly, I'm a process guy. I don't build technology if I don't intend to leverage that in the flawless process, right? So in my story that I'm telling the market, I'm taking API script for functional automation that the engineers can develop and reuse it as is, repurpose for performance as a business process script, right? Into the controller-like environment right away. So if you remember in the old school, we had absolutely separate ways. So we had ways to do functional testing. You had to stop and do entire planning for performance engineering, where it's had all the planning, business process, high priority, distributions, load balancing, all that stuff. But more than everything, it was correlation. So how much time all the performance teams, Joe, you also in the performance engineering, right? If I remember. All right. So you understand that's a freaking nightmare, correlation. So we build a correlation manager automatically that builds for you automatic based on the AI correlation rules right there. So no sweat for even the business analyst that doesn't understand performance engineering, just on the use case and the business requirements, be able to build an executable scenario to a certain degree. Make sense?
Yeah. And here's the real thing. You hear myself and James Pulley and others, and I think James is the one that phrased this the first time, is if something doesn't work well for one user, it's not going to work well for many users. So many times when you're in functional testing, you're just clicking along with one user, looking at what it's doing. Why can't you get a timing at that point? If the timing is bad when you push that button, it's not going to get any better when you throw a bunch more load on the server. So address the issue there. I mean, that is by definition shifting it left.
All right, Scott, I want to start some controversy though, because I could have sworn you said functional testers have nothing to do with performance testing or performance. Maybe I misunderstood you. So
I don't know that I ever said that. I think everybody has a role in performance, but there's a scope to everybody's role, right? I don't expect a functional engineer or just a functional tester to understand what a performance engineer would understand as far as the depth. But as far as a scope of, if I'm making sure that the button's blue and it says submit, why can't I find out how long it takes when that button is pushed? And if it takes 25 seconds for a single user to do it, I know my users aren't going to be happy. That's not, I mean, is that performance testing? Yes, but it's not performance engineering. It's just gathering a timing. But that's important to do that, because if you did it then, you don't have to hand it over to a performance engineer to try to figure out some deeper level meaning. You've already fixed that, and now they can go further with it. But there's a different scope for the performance team.
Absolutely. So Scott, I don't know if you've been typecast. You do all kinds of testing, but I think you've known for performance engineering. Why performance engineering? Why does it matter? Why does it still matter nowadays in the age of AI?
Well, does it matter if our customers are happy? Does it matter if our software is efficient? Does it matter if the software costs less? Does it matter if we're bringing less risk to our product every day when we implement performance engineering? All these things that keep the executives up at night. Is my software safe? Does it perform well? Are my users having a great experience with it? It actually shows you when you apply performance engineering to product and you make it better, it proves that you love your customers. If you don't love your customers, why should they expect to use your software? And so that's what it boils down to. We see a lot of companies these days who it's obvious they really don't care about their customers. Because if they did, they would be asking for feedback all the time. What can we build you that's going to solve your problem? Like what Alex is doing is, how can I make your life easier to get this done, faster to get it done? I mean, just from a practitioner standpoint, I've done a lot of this testing. I hate the fact that I have to go into some scripting tool and write a bunch of code and figure out the correlation and because I have to do that to get the real job done, which is what? I want to see the test results. And those test results are only good for a very short period of time until some change happens, right, on infrastructure code. So get me the data that I need to make a decision. I've had to do all this other stuff for so long. If that time is shortened so I can get to my data faster, man, why wouldn't we want to do that? That shows that you're listening to your customers.
So Alex, you must love your customers, because a lot of people they overlook performance testing and performance aspects when they're creating a functional, I know Scott hates this term, functional automation type of solution. So why did you build in performance and performance aspects to your tooling?
I won't give them a reason to look at anybody else. I come from the Street Fighter kind of perspective that I have only eye contact with the person to close the deal. So I have a one shot. So I have to give 120% right away and close all the rejection loops. That you want this, you don't need to switch anywhere else. I have one expert on the top of everything that understands your corporate culture, that will be able to guide you through any issue that you as a Mr. Executive having right now. Because the game escalated, not just to the QA managers or director of QA, because Zaptest AI able to automate. We actually, as a Chris taught me in the Mercury days, Chris Lockhead, CMO of Mercury, and you have to separate yourself from the crowd. Create your own space. Makes sense? And that's what my always motto was. I was always breaking the stereotype, running on the sidelines quick, so they less expect me there. So bottom line, I'm giving you all the technology all together that will fulfill all your needs within the realm of software automation as a CIO of the company, that any group for testing or RPA can assure smooth process automation.
And you know what, Alex, it's funny that you mentioned Chris Lockhead. He was on my podcast a few weeks ago. And the thing
I would love to listen to it.
Yeah, it's and he says exactly what you're talking about. And the two most important things that I walked away with from that interview, because I was asking him what made Mercury so special. What was the vibe at Mercury? Why was it the way that it was? Because I've never experienced another company that had that thing that they had. And there was two pieces that he said. And he said it was customer obsession. And he went into that whole thing. And this has been sticking with me ever since. And you're going to hear me talk more about it this year, is being in love with your customers. As a chief marketing officer, he said he was on the ground with customers more than he was in the office with his staff, because he was asking his customers, where are you going to be in the next 2 to 3 years? And how can we be there with you to provide that solution and make your life easier? That's what they took back to the software development team and said, make what they're asking for, because they'll keep bringing wheelbarrows of money to us if we do that. And he was right. That was one of the big takeaways that I had. And then the other thing was this idea that you don't have to compare yourself to anybody else. That's called the comparison trap. I don't need to tell you why I'm better than Ding Dong Company over here. I want to tell you why I'm different, because companies that asked you to make a choice, that's where the deal is made, right? You don't have to say, I'm better than him. Just by comparing yourself with somebody else, you've already given them legitimacy. And historically, it doesn't work. Burger King has never sold more hamburgers than McDonald's, although they have pinpointed them and poked at them all these years. Pepsi has never outsold Coca-Cola, even though Pepsi has always had this rivalry with them. Why? Because every time they do that and try that rivalry situation and comparison taste test, they legitimize the other company as the leader and they end up winning. So create a category, love your customers, and tell them why you're different to make a choice, and you win the game.
Amen. This is exactly what I do. I learned from him hard, and I ran through this strategy all my career as a brand leader. But I can tell you one thing on what you said. I supervise every single opportunity myself. If you book a demo, it's going to be me live. Neither of my, I have Sergey, that's we're like a U2, right? Bona and the Edge. We've been together for 20 years, delivering all the demos together with whatever accents we have, but this is how we work, right? I take everybody myself. I'm going to massage it because I'm a director, like a Spielberg, right? So I have to understand your process, your objectives, interview you people, and I help you to construct the process based on my software that's going to be flawless, that's going to help you to win the year. Now, another thing, it's separating yourself, right? I'm not comparing myself to anybody else. So I'm just myself. I have my own style, for better or worse. You like me, you dislike me, you never forget me.
You're going to remember your name no matter what.
Right. Razzle dazzle them all the time. And speaking on that, I love what you do. I want you to tell us more what you told me at the first meeting when we showed you the software about your country music collaboration.
Oh, well, he's probably referring to all these different music videos that I do. So I came up to this conclusion because I love to do the podcast. I love to do interviews for my shows. So there's a lot of technical content, but I wanted to break out of that because I lived in Nashville for 20 years and I love music was my first love. If you couldn't tell, play guitar, love music. I was trying to figure out how can I take my love for creativity and music and turn it into something that I could still use for technology. So I started doing these music parody videos where I would take a song, a famous song, and I would change the lyrics, turn it into something that was software related. And then I would, it'd be like the Weird Al Yankovic of tech. And so now we've got like 12 or 13 of these things out there. And I've done Iron Maiden and I've done Willie Nelson. Who else have I done? The Cure. A lot of stuff from the 80s. I've tried to do more modern stuff recently. These parodies, these songs are recorded from the ground up. The music is recorded and engineered by a Grammy award-winning producer out of Nashville, Tennessee, a friend of mine. And the videos are done with the highest quality cameras from people who actually record music videos in Nashville. So we're using legitimate people to do this. There's no AI. On purpose, we don't use any AI to do this. It's done the old-fashioned way. And we're trying to create something it's going away from the corporate starched collar, closer to an Alice Cooper concert, and hopefully we find a fine line in between where we don't go over too far, but we get the message across. So one of the last videos I did last year was Carrie Underwood and Jason Aldean did a song called "If I Didn't Love You." We turned that into "If I Didn't Load Test," and we recorded it in a real Nashville studio. It was actually Ricky Skaggs' studio in Hendersonville. Ricky Skaggs is an icon in the Nashville area. The Grand Ole Opry loves him. He actually had the original WSM microphone from the Grand Ole Opry they used in the 40s, 50s, whatever, the microphone that all these people sang through. He had a pew from the original Ryman Auditorium that they had given him in his studio. So to get to see all of this and experience it, even though we were just using the stuff for props, we weren't even recording there. We had already done the music. My sister played the role of Carrie Underwood. She put a blonde wig on and she made up, and I'm Jason Aldean. My sister is Carrie Underwood, and we recreated the entire video exactly the way they had done it in a studio. And it turned out great. It got a lot of hits. And in the middle of it, you'll see like on the board where the guy's mixing the thing, you'll see a laptop next to him and it says Taylor Swift's site, causes site to go down, and all these problems that were on the screens talking about what happens when you don't load test. So the education is there while you're getting the music, and you read the lyrics. If you actually read the lyrics, it says, if I don't load test, our company will be down. We could get fired. There's all these ramifications for this. And so I think the message resonates with software engineers and anybody in IT tech, but hopefully somebody who's not even tech can look at that and go, well, I don't really understand technically what they're talking about, but I got to keep watching because this guy's crazy, right? So maybe we get the attention that we need through that. And I just wish more people could see them.
Scott, amazing story. So 2 things I want to say. First of all, I'm a big fan of country music. This is my cowboy hat.
Okay.
And, a very special person in my life for 20 plus years, being my partner in operation, my director of operation, my Cindy. She's a country woman from Texas. This is the type of woman that our nation is built on. She's a tiny sweetheart that bakes the cherry pie, but won't hesitate to charge the rifle. Right. And she's a marksman shooter. Right. Make sense?
Yeah.
And I've been to Nashville many times. My son is a musician. I play piano myself since I was 5 years old. As a matter of fact, music helped me to comprehend the computer science through solfeggio, through theory of music. It's a different story. Mm-hmm. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So I praise for what you do. Country, it's a foundation of our nation. I'm a big fan of what I call corporate pop. This is a new genre that you already started. I already started on 2 different sides, right? And for that sake, I have my news channel that's complete AI project. We have it already for over the year. I started last year to make a statement to enterprise world that you can drive AI and the news through fun. So basically what we do, we have like a SNL sketch comedy doing the short segments of latest AI news every week. So if you go to YouTube, type Zap News, you will get a whole series for a year, over 50 episodes that we're releasing every week religiously. And this is a completely AI project. It's driven by the agents that we created a year ago that takes the information from the particular sources we're looking at, creates a script. We only have videographer that plugs it in together with my digital avatar, but also AI infused, right? But it's just meanwhile, AI already led us to fully automate everything through agents as well. Make sense? Mm-hmm. And we do the similar thing. I have in mind that I'm going to make Asa also think and tell the stories. And I had a similar thing that because of the attention span is very short. And that's for everybody to understand. Maybe our competitor is going to pick up on this to drive this commotion for us jointly, right? So what I had in mind, I said, we're going to do DJ sets. I'm a big fan of EDM music and the musicals. So we can take any knowing the concept and build the lyrics toward the educational on our technology. Because today, shorts allow you to watch it for 30 seconds. You cannot teach someone Zap Test AI in 30 seconds. But what you can do, have a good music piece that people will listen and they're driving, that's going to be sing really lyrics toward, exactly as you said, toward what we want to convey to people that talks about our technology. Make sense? So, Joe, let's play this video clip of Zap Test News. I want folks to see it, how it goes down.
Here's an example of the Zap Test News.
Elon Musk's xAI just dropped Grok 3, the newest AI chatbot aiming to outsmart ChatGPT and friends.
Holy smokes! Are we both bots?
Powered by way more computing muscle than its predecessor, Grok 3 promises to be maximally truth-seeking, which sounds like something a detective bot would say before exposing all your embarrassing Google searches.
You embarrass me!
It's available to Premium Plus subscribers on X and via a new subscription tier on xAI's app. But will Grok 3 truly revolutionize AI, or is it just another high-tech hype cycle?
Good call. I didn't think of that.
Musk keeps upgrading AI like it's a smartphone. Grok 4 better not start suggesting Tesla purchases every time I ask for directions. Don't forget to visit our channel for the latest tech news and a little bit of fun. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and let's zap.
All right. So this is a time in the episode where we usually try to do a game called Stump Alex Zap. So you have a lot of experience, Scott. Just curious to know, here's the gist of the game. You give us a scenario or something you think is really something people struggle with testing. And we try to stop Alex to see how he would solve that particular pain point.
Okay. You have a client who approaches you and they are in the world of the Internet of Things, and they have a whole lot of small little devices that communicate over very strange protocols like Z-Wave and things like that, but they need to automate messages to this and do diagnostics on them. How do you approach that?
Very good case. Thanks for bringing it up. We never mentioned Internet of Things, even though Zaptest perfectly capable and suitable of doing that. Market is still small, but with robotics, I predict that we're going to go into the Internet of Things widely in a few years, very soon, because we need to embed software into robots and communicate between the software and multiple devices among them. So the way, first of all, we can automate, we have an API automation. This is the key for Internet of Things. So any messaging that can be gone through any piece of software on the hardware, on the device, can be communicated through Zaptest, and we can automate that. And we can link UI and API through other devices that are going to be in the whole network of the Internet of Things devices, right? Like if I'll take example as a smart home, for example, right? We can connect refrigerator to TV, to the Roomba in the same way through the API calls, right? And if you want to have a mobile device that you're going to operate it, we can automate UI piece of it to make sure that it's all tested and operational through AI. Make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yes, good answer. I just completely made that up off the top of my head.
And that's perfect. That's the whole point. You didn't know that we're going to ask you to play this game.
No,
yeah, we didn't prepare it. That's by design. I want everybody to understand and believe me when I'm saying that my technology can do above and beyond and will help any CIO to save at least $1 million in man hours next year for the next budget and save a lot of jobs, because we empower the people that work for companies to deliver more to please the board of directors that pushing their leaders to cut costs. Make sense?
Sure.
So basically with my software, any QA team changing the positioning and the role in the organization from just focusing narrow on the particular project by being the center of excellence group that delivers software automation across groups within for RPA, testing, Internet of Things, and anything above.
Boost efficiency with AI-powered automation. No coding, no limits, zero risk. Try it free for 6 months and let's zap.
So, Scott, why did you pick that example for IoT? Do you believe with Alex's vision of seeing IoT, it's been hyped forever now, but with the robotics, I actually can see that as a valid uptick.
That's what it is not a lot of people are paying attention to it right now. And I really thought IoT was going to make this big bang like everybody else did around 2016, 2017. And I was even, I actually worked with HP at the time to create the COAP protocol for LoadRunner, right? I was the project manager over that, and it did flop, completely flopped. And you never hear about anybody doing it. I think what happened was blockchain and crypto kind of took the center stage about that time and said, hey, look at me instead. And everybody did. And this kind of got forgotten. But I think, again, we're now at this place where we're beyond that trough of illusionment and people are really starting to use it for real stuff. And when you can apply AI and machine learning to this, think about this wonderful example. I know of a company that has all these factories with these very large fans that cool the factories. Now, the fan itself to replace that is about $20,000. The fan motor inside of it is about $5. Well, what happens is when those fans run for so long, the parts start wearing out and the ball bearings in there start getting hot. When they mess up, it explodes. And when it explodes, the whole fan explodes, $20,000 down the drain. If you can put a sensor on that fan that says, these ball bearings are getting over a certain temperature now, we should probably look at changing this. You change it, a $5 solution instead of a $20,000 solution. That's just one example of how you could utilize this. And I think that's where we're going.
Love it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Scott. I spent 2 years in Vegas, going every day to multiple trade shows, interviewing software executive, because any trade show has a software vendors, and I interviewed them on the processes, how they use software, what challenges they face in different industries, you name it, from the the waste management to, I don't know, the performance arts and the yada, yada. And I've seen a lot of manufacturing trade shows that have everything that you just mentioned, and the perfect case scenario for Internet of Things, but they weren't educated enough. They didn't know what is possible. So this is why enterprise moving very slow, very conservative, and it's our mission as a technologist evangelist of the industry to educate the crowd. To make sense?
Yes, and AI in 2025 is not AI, at least generative AI, in 2023. It's just so fast that it's changing. In 2023, if you went to ChatGPT and said, "Tell me about James Pulley," which I did, it said that A, he was dead, 2, he was a contributor to JMeter, and some other thing, and none of it was true. It was completely hallucinating, right? Now it actually can tell you everything. I think it even has a social security number out there. So it's different now, and it is advancing. And that's the thing. Can the enterprise, a large ship, like say a big cruise ship, how do you turn a cruise ship versus turning a little boat? It's harder for the enterprise to move fast. And the way things are going these days, it's a challenge.
And that's a great thing, I guess, of having like an all-in-one solution like Zaptest as a partner, right, Alex?
Yes.
To navigate all these crazy things that could come up and be ready for it.
Honestly, I never lost the opportunity for past 10 years. Kidding you not. I never lost opportunity to technological achievements. I always lose an opportunity either to budget constraint, because I'm not cheapest and I'm not trying to, and politics. Most importantly, politics.
Oh, yeah.
Because someone somewhere has a weighted interest and you're not getting through. Make sense? But if we'll take all this obstacle apart, and if we as a leadership focus on what needed, and today we're going to do it more so, because competition getting tighter, decision making required to be made faster, boards pushing leadership to cut costs, to adjust it to AI productivity. All these factors going to push enterprises to be more honest to what is on the table. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things you just said was about losing to politics, and I'll give you something that I've learned over the years that will help you with that. One of my mentors, Brian Copeland, he recently wrote a book about pre-sales, and he says this in the book, and it just struck me. If your company, any company, is deciding on a technology stack, software that they want to buy or use in their company, and they're doing it for any other reason because it's in the best interest of the company, like it's who they played golf with and who their buddies are and all this stuff, you're actually wasting company treasure. Not just the money, but treasure overall. And that's a really poor reason to decide on the kind of software. I know it happens all the time, but that's the tragedy. So maybe bring that up.
Well, brother, AI gonna make a world a honest place. I play golf like a Happy Gilmore, if you remember this movie. Yeah. I know how. I'm a big fan of American football, and I'm a big evangelist of an American football, but golf is not my strongest skill. Yeah, and due to when you building your career, being outsider, and you learning the culture, and you trying to fit in, a lot of things that's not available to you, and you perceive different than other guys that went to the particular schools and playing golf better than you are.
Yeah.
But the landscape is changing.
Absolutely. Well, this is a great place. Thank you, Scott, for joining us. Really a lot of great insights. Before we go, though, any parting zaps you want to give the audience?
Well, I want to, again, encourage everyone to book a meeting with us, to look at Zaptest AI. It's a really revolutionary technology, and I don't afraid to say that. With all my experience on the market, all my deliverables, it's something that's going to help entire organization, no matter what size it is, to win entire year, save a lot of budget, to secure a lot of jobs for people, to make them more useful, to augment their man hours, to more automation within the company.
If you're still doing manual testing in 2025, you're already behind. But here's your chance to get ahead. Zaptest lets you automate everything. No coding required, unlimited licenses, fixed budgets. It's a game changer. Book your demo today at Zaptest AI and see it live.
Makes sense. So please book a demo with us. We got a 2-way process, very easy. You book a demo for 1 hour. We're going to show you. I'm personally going to be at the demo, show you what it is, learn your case, suggest how it's going to help you. We're going to have a second meeting. It's a live proof of concept. It's a 2-hour Zoom meeting where we're going to, in front of you, similar to what we did for Scott, in front of you without any preparation, follow any steps of the automation to automate in front of you, like a kibachi grill cook, right? And third one, once you see that it does the job, we can sign up for 6 months proof of concept where you don't have to pay if you don't see results. This is how confident we are, and we committed to you as our customers. That's what I wanted to say.
Scott, best way to find more about you or people want to contact you?
They can just go to scottmoore.consulting online. And if you want to check out my weekly show, the SMC Journal, it's smcjournal.com. Love to have them there.
And we'll have a link to all these awesomeness down below.
And of course, as always, be happy and let's zap.